He stood backstage in his dress uniform, hands shaking, not from fear of combat, but from something far scarier, walking onto the brightest stage in America. 23 years old, born and raised in Lewiston, Maine, Isaac Atkins had spent the last several years of his life serving his country as a sergeant in the United States Army. But before he was a soldier, before the long hours and the discipline and the structure of military life, he was just a boy who loved to sing. Nobody outside his barracks knew that. Nobody outside his small circle of brothers in arms had any idea that the same man who carried out his duties with precision and seriousness had a voice that could stop a room cold. He used to sing in his car, driving back and forth from base, posting little clips online just for fun, never expecting anyone to care. Slowly, people started caring. He picked up a following on social media, soldiers and strangers alike commenting that his voice gave them chills, that it didn't belong hidden inside a phone screen. They started calling him the singing soldier. It became a joke at first, something his fellow soldiers teased him about between drills. But the teasing turned into encouragement, and the encouragement turned into a dare he could not ignore. They told him he had something real, something the world deserved to hear, and they pushed him, again and again, to stop hiding it. Isaac brushed it off for a long time. He had a job to do. He had responsibilities, a uniform to wear, a mission bigger than himself. Singing was something he did to unwind, not something he thought could ever become his path. But the voices around him did not stop. His brothers in the army, the same men who trusted him with their lives, kept telling him the same thing, that he was wasting something special, that one day he would regret not even trying. So he made a decision that surprised even himself. He requested leave. Not for a family emergency, not for an injury, not for any of the usual reasons a soldier steps away from duty, but for an audition. For a dream he had kept buried under boots and uniforms for years. He flew out, away from base, away from the only life he had known as an adult, and walked into the building where America's Got Talent auditions were being held. The moment he stepped onto that stage, something shifted in the room before he even opened his mouth. His voice, low, smooth, and steady, immediately caught the attention of the judges before a single note of music played. There was a calm gravity to the way he spoke, the kind of presence that made people lean in without knowing why. Simon Cowell asked him directly why now, why take this risk, why step away from a stable, respected career to chase something so uncertain. Isaac answered without hesitation. He told them about his soldiers, the same men who had teased him and pushed him and ultimately convinced him that this was his moment. He said this was his dream, and that performing in front of not just a national audience, but an international one, was something he never imagined would actually happen to him. He spoke about how the people around him saw something in him that he had been too afraid to fully believe in himself. Then the music started. He chose a soulful, emotionally raw rendition of a song that had already lived two lives, once decades ago, and again through a more recent, explosive cover that turned it into an anthem of raw passion. From the very first line, his voice cut through the silence of the room. It was not just technically strong, it was full of something deeper, something lived in. There was a roughness to certain notes that felt earned, not accidental, as if every ounce of discipline and emotion he had built over years of service had been poured directly into the performance. The judges' reactions shifted almost instantly. What started as polite attention turned into visible surprise. As Isaac's voice climbed and dipped, controlling power and vulnerability in the same breath, members of the panel began exchanging glances, the universal signal that something special was unfolding right in front of them. By the time he reached the most demanding part of the song, the audience was already on its feet. There is a particular kind of energy that fills a room when a performance becomes undeniable, when doubt disappears and everyone watching simply surrenders to what they are witnessing. That energy filled the studio as Isaac poured every bit of himself into the final notes. When he finished, the air felt different. One judge in particular could not contain herself any longer. She told him directly that he could sing, her tone shifting from evaluator to genuine fan in a matter of seconds. Another judge chimed in immediately, calling his voice nothing short of captivating, practically swooning at the sound that had just filled the room. There was a brief pause, the kind that exists right before something unforgettable happens. And then, without waiting for anyone else to make the first move, she reached for the one button capable of changing a contestant's entire life in an instant. She said she could not hold back, that she had to be the one to do this, that she refused to let the opportunity slip past her. And then golden confetti exploded across the stage. The golden buzzer was hers to give, and she gave it without hesitation, sending Isaac directly into the live shows, completely bypassing additional rounds of judgment most contestants are forced to endure. The moment the confetti began falling, Isaac's composure finally broke. The same man who could stand steady under military pressure, who had trained for situations far more dangerous than a singing competition, found himself overwhelmed by raw, public emotion. He tried to fight back tears, the same way countless contestants before him had tried and failed in that very spot, but the weight of the moment was simply too much. He stood there as confetti rained down, golden light catching every fragment as it fell, and for a few seconds, the soldier disappeared completely, replaced by a young man finally allowing himself to feel everything he had kept tucked away for years. Backstage, the moment continued in an unexpectedly tender way. He picked up a piece of the golden confetti from the stage floor, holding onto it like a keepsake, a small physical reminder of something almost too big to process. He was given the chance to call his family in that moment, and the emotion on his face as he shared the news with the people who had supported him from the very beginning said more than words ever could. The judge who changed his life walked up to him directly afterward, wrapping him in a hug and telling him he had heart, soul, and a voice that demanded to be heard. She told him this moment belonged entirely to him, urging him to simply enjoy it without overthinking what came next. Then, turning to the audience, she made a statement that captured exactly why this moment mattered so much. She said that this was how a golden buzzer should be given, decisively, without hesitation, without waiting to see what anyone else might do. It was bold. It was instinctive. And it was, by every measure, deeply deserved. What makes Isaac Atkins' story resonate so powerfully is not just the voice, though the voice alone would be enough to capture attention. It is the sacrifice behind it. It is the image of a soldier stepping away from duty, away from structure, away from everything familiar, just to chase something he had quietly dreamed about for years. It is the image of a man who spent his days serving a uniform and his nights wondering if there was more waiting for him, more that the world had not yet seen. It is the reminder that talent does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly in a barracks, hidden inside a soldier's car stereo, waiting patiently for the right moment, the right push, the right group of friends willing to say enough is enough, you need to try. Isaac's journey did not begin under bright lights or with industry connections. It began with small, unnoticed videos, a soldier singing to pass the time during a long drive, never imagining that those private moments would eventually lead him to one of the biggest stages in the world. It began with brothers in arms who saw something in him before he saw it in himself, who refused to let him hide a gift simply because the timing felt inconvenient or the risk felt too large. Now, his journey continues. With the golden buzzer behind him, Isaac heads straight into the live shows, carrying with him not just a powerful voice, but an entire story of discipline, courage, and quiet determination that resonated far beyond the walls of that studio. He represents something audiences cannot help but root for, the idea that dreams do not expire simply because life takes you down a different path first. Whatever happens next in this competition, one thing is already certain. The singing soldier has been heard, and the world is not going to forget the moment a soldier took off his armor of silence and let his voice speak louder than anything words ever could.